I'd like to thank the member for his question.
The minister will resume her seat. Minister for Immigration will cease interjecting. The member for Chifley just can't stop interjecting, so he can go and do it in his office under 94A. The level of interject will leave immediately. The level of interjections is far too high. The minister has the call.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I understand why the member opposite is very sensitive on this point, because it is very embarrassing. But let me say, what is even more embarrassing is the depth that the Labor Party has sunk to, the adolescent games that they continue to play in this parliament that have no impact on the legislation, by the way, that has passed through not only the House but the Senate only today. Legislation that helps us to combat multinational tax avoidance through the Australia-Germany tax treaty legislation. In fact, we are very, very proud on this side of the House of our record on combating multinational tax avoidance. They had 6 years over there to do something about this, 6 years, but they sat on their hands. It takes a coalition government to actually do something about it. Only last year we passed the Multinational Anti-Avoidance Law. The Multinational Anti-Avoidance Law, which is the most significant reform that has been brought into this parliament for decades to stop multinationals profit shifting offshore. It provides increased penalties to the Australian Taxation Office, it gives them increased powers, and it means that Australians can have confidence in our Australian tax system.
The member for McMahon.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Revenue. Given the minister wasn't present in the House last night when detailed questions on the International Tax Agreement Amendment Bill could be asked, I ask, given the bill that was eventually passed last night affects the taxation of dividend payments, Minister, what will be the change to the tax treatment of affected dividends?
The Minister for Revenue and Financial Services.
I very much thank the member for his question. As he is very well aware, the new tax treaty with Germany, which he supports, incorporates integrity provisions as part of the G20 OECD base erosion and profit shifting project. It assists in our continued efforts to ensure that multinational companies and high wealth individuals pay the tax that they ought to be paying in this country. It is very important that we were able to implement this change in the law because
the Minister for Revenue and Financial. I'll just ask the minister to resume his seat. The manager for opposition business knows that I'll recognise him. He doesn't need to sort of be speaking while I'm trying to get the minister to resume her seat. Now, the manager of opposition business on a point of order.
Yeah, on direct relevance, I don't see how it's possible to be directly relevant without answering about the tax treatment of affected dividends.
The Leader of the House will cease interjecting. The manager of opposition business will resume his seat. The Minister for Revenue and Financial Services is entitled on the substance of the question to have a preamble, but I do say to the minister she needs to now start to direct herself to the rest of the question on the specifics which was asked. The minister has the call. The member for Deakin will cease interjecting.
Well, I say to the member opposite that the reason for the importance of this particular tax treaty is it is the very first tax treaty that Australia has been able to conduct with another country that implements the provisions of the G20 OECD base erosion and profit shifting project, which is absolutely critical and something that those opposites say that they care very deeply about. You want us to be combating multinational tax avoidance, and this particular tax treaty will be able to deliver just that. So I commend the legislation that has passed both the House and also the Senate, and I say to those opposite that if you want to actually get into cheap point scoring, that is the level.
Member for Isaacs.
That is the level to which Labor has actually sunk. Then what I would say is that
the Minister. I again just draw the Minister to the specifics of the question. She's been entitled to cover the broad range of the legislation, but the question was more specific. This is without being offensive to those asking questions on my left, more specific than many questions are. And the Minister needs to direct herself to that or wind up her answer.
I'm happy to conclude my question.
The member for Wide Bay.
Now, this one is both my play of the day and my wooden spoon. It's been the easiest call for me to make all week today. The play of the day to Chris Bowen, the wooden spoon to Kelly O'Dwyer, because I found this moment to be actually worse, in my view, than the stuff-up last night. Yes, it was a bit of a stunt by Labor, a bit of big embarrassment for the government, but then have a look at what unfolded this afternoon in question time with a very straightforward question from Chris Bowen.
Given the bill that was eventually passed last night affects the taxation of dividend payments, Minister, what will be the change to the tax treatment of affected dividends?
If you want to actually get into cheap point scoring, that is the level.
Member for Isaacs.
That is the level to which Labor has actually sunk. Then what I would say is that
the Minister. I again just draw the Minister to the specifics of the question. She's been entitled to cover the broad range of the legislation, but the question was more specific. This is without being offensive to those asking questions on my left, more specific than many questions are. And the Minister needs to direct herself to that or wind up her answer.
I'm happy to conclude my question.
Now, Peter, I cut out the broad range of waffle that was most of the answer there from Kelly O'Dwyer. We kept in the speaker there for this point. Tony Smith and Kelly O'Dwyer are old mates. They go way back to Costello days working together in that office, as you know. He's there underlined. He's highlighted the fact with a big circle. She did not know the answer, or at least didn't answer Chris Bowen's very direct question. What's the actual impact of the bill last night on the taxation of dividends? She's the minister responsible. She didn't answer it. I just thought that was a standout wooden spoon today.
Yeah, but who do you jointly give it to both of them? The Speaker for hanging her out to dry, as well as the Minister for not knowing?
No, I thought the Speaker handled it absolutely appropriately. Okay. The play of the day is Chris Bowen, because you heard a lot of other very clever questions from Labor, from Tony Burke and so on, and Bill Shorten as well, having a lot of fun maximising the embarrassment for the